This episode has been brought to you by Manscaped. The new Lawnmower 5.0 Ultra is every man's cheat code to look good, feel good, and turn the page on confidence this year. Go to manscaped.com, use the code GOLTS20 for 20% off plus free shipping today. This week on the Heart of the Gulch YouTube show, we sit down with musician/songwriter Gracie Carol. In today's Walk the Line episode, Gracie gives us an in-studio performance of her single, Vital Signs. Let's check out the episode. We are in the heart of the Gulch. I'm your host, Tony Mendoza, and today I'm very excited. We got someone from Cincinnati, Ohio. She's a triplet? That's absolutely incredible. But we got the one and only Gracie Carol in the building.
What's up, Tony? Thank you for having me.
Well, Gracie, I think it's, we kind of touched on it. I want to touch on it right from the beginning. A triplet?
A triplet. I'm surprised you already know that. Thank you for doing your research.
Well, geez. What are the other siblings?
What do they do, or what?
I mean, first, who are they?
We're all girls, first of all, and fraternal. We're not identical, which is very cool because since we're already triplets, we want kind of our own identity, which is very nice. So we got that going for us. But we're all from Ohio, and we all live in different spots now. One still lives in Ohio. I live here, and another lives in Florida.
Wow. So I heard that 2/3 of y'all lived here in Nashville. Is that true?
Yeah, that's right. She actually went to school with me for a little bit.
Belmont.
At Belmont, yeah.
Wow. Well, I know it's kind of always creepy when I know too much about the guests. But, Gracie, let's talk about Cincinnati, Ohio.
Let's do it.
Because I visited a few times.
Oh.
You know what? It's one of those things where it's like Cincinnati, you either love it or you're not always around it. So where do you land on Cincinnati?
You know, I always say it's a middle city. It's very medium, and I think it's perfect. I love it. It needs to stay that way. Not too many people need to know about it, but enough know about it to live there and live peacefully. It's such a good spot to settle down to. So if you're ever looking for a spot to just hang out in and live a life and make a family, that's such a great place to go, I always say.
What's the music scene in Cincinnati, Ohio?
It's kind of strange. You get all kinds of people, honestly. I loved country music growing up, so that wasn't a huge scene, but I found my people with it and found Nashville from that. But there's also a ton of pop and R&B, and jazz is pretty big there as well. I went to a ton of bars around when I was able to go. I was underage at the time, but I would go to the bars and check out all the jazz musicians that were around. And I think that also kind of led me to be able to come to Nashville and check out that country scene that they have here. So it's kind of similar, but in different ways.
You would go back and forth from Cincinnati to Nashville quite a bit, right? It was like your vacation city?
Oh, yeah. So my parents actually introduced it to me. They loved Nashville. They still come here all the time. They come for their anniversaries, and they came here for their honeymoon, and they love going. And so whenever they would go on their anniversary trip, since they had 3 of us, they would have to take us with them. So I would always come down here and have a good time with them and check it all out and see the bands in the windows. Mm-hmm. And that's honestly why I fell in love with it.
Speaking of, Cincinnati and how much, the city has grown. I mean, when you first transitioned into Nashville, what was that like to leave a city like Cincinnati and move into Nashville?
Oh my gosh, that's such a great question. I honestly had no idea what to expect. It really felt like I picked up all my bags and had to restart again into a whole new city. So it was like everybody kind of knew who I was in Cincinnati at that moment. And coming to Nashville, I feel like I had to restart everything and learn the tricks to the industry and kind of study how to be a business here. Because, being your own artist as an independent artist, you're basically the CEO of your own company, Mm-hmm. So I had to learn about all of that myself and figure that out. And in Cincinnati, it was like they didn't really understand that part of the music side and the industry side because that's not there. They're just so business standard. Mm-hmm. And then the music industry and Music Row and being down there and really getting the ins of how artists work. It's so different. It's very different lifestyles as well. And I think that's what made it a fun challenge, being able to do that.
So, speaking of that, I mean, talking about the music industry, when you're in Cincinnati, you had the opportunity to, perform with Keith Urban.
I did.
Dude, that's absolutely amazing. Wait, so you got to tell me the story about how that came to be, though.
Oh my gosh. I was working as a entertainment performer for amusement parks around Cincinnati. And I specifically worked at Coney Island Amusement Park, which is the same parking lot arena area as Riverbend Music Center, which is where Keith Urban usually comes to play, and any big country artist. So we were actually playing that song that he was singing. It was We Were Us at the time with Miranda Lambert. That's the tour he was going on. And we were singing that song in our show. And so I told everybody in my cast, I was like, guys, that would be so fun if we send him a video and all of us go up and sing the song that we're already singing. But they did not want to do it. They hated that idea. They didn't really care for Keith Urban. I was in love with him. I was like, okay, fine, you're right. It was a silly idea. So I ended up getting the courage to do it myself right at the last moment. I sent in a video to Keith. I was like, please, I would love to sing with you. This is a huge dream of mine. And literally the next day I got a phone call from the radio station that's up there. It was B105. And they said Keith loved my video. They really want me to come sing with him. And the concert was that Thursday. And so then after that, I spent the whole day with him. I toured a little bit with him. I sang that song with him out on the road. And it was like the best time ever. I think it was an opportunity of like a blessing shown to me what my future could be if I can make it there.
What's Keith Urban like? For the people that have never hung out with him, I hear that he smells really good.
I was going to say that. I say that to everybody, and everybody who does know him knows that.
What does he smell like?
It smells amazing.
That's such a crazy question to ask.
It smells amazing. Like if you think of like a god, I don't know, like from like maybe like if Hercules had a smell, he could be that.
Keith Urban smells like Hercules.
I don't know what Hercules smells like, but it could be that.
Well, okay. Well, speaking of, performing with Keith Urban back, when you were in Cincinnati, I mean, what were your vital signs like when you were playing out there?
You know what? I was checking them as much as I could. That is playing with him is actually the huge, big reason why I left Cincinnati. He really created this pathway for me that I knew I was supposed to belong in Nashville. And even leading up to where we are today and being on this podcast with you, I would not be here without that opportunity with him.
That it's amazing. It's like almost makes my heart beat. And, speaking of heartbeats and vital signs, I mean, I don't know if you want to let them know, but, you have a project coming out later on, maybe this year, maybe the top of next year. Mm-hmm. Let everyone know what the name of that is going to be and the story behind, your EP or the album that's coming.
Yes, I'm so excited for this. This is probably my favorite album creative writing process that I've been through. It's called Heart Condition. I had the idea when I was going through a lot of heartbreaks. Just this past year, since probably 2020, I had the craziest heartbreaks that I've ever been through. And I always told people, and I always go by, this is what I live by. I do everything in love, and I try to love everybody I meet unconditionally. Even if people are scared of that, I always make sure and let it be known that no matter what, I will love somebody unconditionally, no matter what. And if something is afraid of that, then they need to learn how to love that in themselves. So I took that, and my heart condition growing up, I got surgery in 2019. And I kind of put all of that together, relating it to my heartbreaks, and it's all in one EP, and all of the song tracks are like medical titles too. 3 of them are out already, so go check them out.
Let them know what they're called.
Okay, so the title is Heart Condition. It's my favorite one. I've been promoting all of these songs. So if you guys go to my Instagram, TikTok, any social media platform, you can go check out what they're gonna sound like. But it's gonna be Heart Condition. One's called X-Ray. That'll be the next one after that. We got Vital Signs. We got Symptoms of You and Heartburn.
My gosh, I mean, the fact that you're able to come up with these ideas of, integrating, your heart condition and everything that goes behind that and making songs, titles. I mean, in y'all's opinion, because we got producer Jack and awesome guitarist behind the camera too that
Jack
you can't
is
see.
back here.
But, how important it is for titles in your music. How important is that?
They're honestly very crucial to anybody like scrolling through Spotify, seeing what songs they want to pick. If they see a song that's called something like Heart Condition, like, oh, what is that about? Is it about somebody going through a heart condition, or is it like a heartbreak? And then you listen to it and it's kind of both. And so like, you never know what somebody's going through if they can relate to either one, or like even X-Ray, for example, like, is that about an actual X-ray, or is it about something that's deep inside of you that you don't even know existed?
For the people that are watching this that may be going through health issues themselves, what were some of the things that you can give advice for them to keep going and for them not to have, any kind of situation, or just what are the trips and tricks that you learned along the way?
Don't live in the pain, live in the positivity and what life can bring to you, because I was always afraid that my heart would stop one day. That was kind of what my heart was about. It would beat very rapidly and I could go into terrible episodes, and I'd live in the hospital for a long time. And I'd have heart monitors every day with me just to make sure that I was beating okay. So I always say I literally beat to my own drum, which is very fun, but that's what kind of kept me going. And I'm still here and I got it fixed, and now I can perform even way better than I was performing before I got the surgery. And I think it's so cool that I woke up from that surgery and I was like, oh, wow, there's just so much more to life than I didn't even know. And everybody lives that way.
I absolutely love that because for the folks out there that are dealing with any kind of, whether it's a medical thing or a mental thing, there's always places that you can go and reach out to. Hopefully this podcast or this show is able to show you the light out there. But, what's really amazing is the fact that you're able to perform with this heart condition. That's not a normal thing. We think about like football players that have like, that are playing in the NFL and they have different types of heart issues. I mean, was it ever challenging to perform when you had this in the back of your mind?
Oh my gosh, yeah. So I would have episodes while I'd perform and I would still go because I didn't want it to be like a thing that held me back or held me down because I had this episode, this thing about me. So I would do it anyway, but I passed out maybe a couple times.
Really?
Yeah. Yes. But I think it really showed like I had a lot of stamina in me and I wanted to keep moving no matter what. And life can really show you a lot of things if you just keep going. Like, I think it's very cool. And then when I got it fixed, this is crazy, but when I got it fixed, I realized how better, I guess, I could perform and how much longer I could go. So I was performing as many shows as I could. And I worked on a cruise ship and I performed as a top shelf country singer on those for a couple months. And then 2020 hit and then I started working Broadway and I played so many shows down there. I just kept going until about a year ago, I finally was like, I need to slow down. And now I've just been like creating my own shows. I've been booking my own stuff back up in Cincinnati, kind of showing people where I came from, that, there's so much more to life than what's here in this town. Like, we can all move forward, and I'm coming back and showing them what I've done since. So it's been such a blessing, and I'm very happy to be here to be able to show that.
Well, I love that. But you know what else is a blessing? Shout out to our sponsors that are sponsoring this show, because we're going to take a quick break. We're going to have a word from our sponsors. We're going to come right back with Gracie right after this. This episode has been brought to you by Manscaped. The new Lawnmower 5.0 Ultra is every man's cheat code to look good, feel good, and turn the page on confidence this year. Go to manscaped.com, use the code GOLTS20 for 20% off plus free shipping today. So, Gracie, I think about the time where I first got to meet you. Now, you are such a pro at promoting your music online, whether that is TikTok, Instagram. I feel like every day you're posting something on Instagram. So shout out to you for having that stamina to do that.
Thank you.
And it's always in a different place too. You definitely need to check out her Instagram because she'll be doing the same, a different song in the most different places. I'm surprised you didn't walk in here and started singing one of your songs in the background.
I thought about it.
I thought you would, but speaking of that, when I first met you, we met at, was it the new Live Oak?
The new Live Oak.
It's a shout out to the folks that are doing Live Oak. It looks great. That is in Music Row for the folks that are not in Nashville. And I've heard of your music, and I kind of told you when I went to that writer's round that I listen to whoever is on the program before I even invite them on the program.
Yes.
Dude, you killed it so much. I loved it. Shout out to Harper Grace. She was there too.
Oh, she was awesome. Yeah. That was a fun round.
You killed it. So I'm curious
you.
to know, when you transitioned to Nashville and you said Belmont and then it was Broadway and then it was Writers Rounds.
Yes.
Talk to me the difference between working a Broadway shift versus a Writers Round.
Oh my gosh, that's crazy. They're very, very different. So Broadway is kind of like, if you're new in town, it's mostly new people who kind of, learn about Nashville and they're like, Broadway's the way to go. And they you hear all about that as a tourist and stuff. So usually everybody who comes into town, they'll try to make their way in there if they want to be an artist or musician and go to places like Tootsies or, Old Red or just a whole bunch of places down there and try to get it in. Mm-hmm. And so you can play cover songs down there. You can play acoustic shifts down there. You can play full band shifts. But most of the time you're playing, like, for example, I played 10 to close shifts, which was 10 to like 3 o'clock in the morning. So it depends on whatever shifts you want to do. They also have 2 to 6.
Wait, so you're a badass then. If you're closing the shift, what was the place where you're usually closing it on Broadway?
I would close out Tootsies.
Whoa, dude. Top floor or bottom floor?
Top floor.
Wow, you have that energy.
I really did try to put on a show. So whoever saw my show, they saw a show. I loved performing and entertaining. So
well, you just performed on Tootsies. What anniversary was it?
Yes, it's the 64th. They had their birthday bash this past September, I believe. So
I loved your outfit on that. You looked hot, man. You looked awesome.
Thank you.
What was it like to be at the top floor of Tootsies? And for everyone that's watching this that's not in Nashville, Tootsies is really the number one honky tonk that everyone thinks of when they think of Nashville. It's the pink building. And the top floor, my bad. Purple. Don't kill me, Tootsies. But I'm very impressed that you were playing the top floor of it, because the top floor, they usually only book some of the best talent on Broadway.
Oh, wow.
I mean, that's true. And it's, how did you keep that energy up? Because the people upstairs at Tootsies, there's at least 200 people at a time on a poppin' night.
It was a party every night. I will say that. It was so much fun, though. You definitely had to have the stamina to be able to go up there and play crazy shows like that and cover songs and singing stuff like, Before He Cheats and Man, I Feel Like a Woman, like all of those awesome songs that all the bachelorettes want to hear. I loved adding choreography, too. So I actually had dance moves that I would go on stage and do the same thing every time, and people just loved it. And I really tried to change the game a little bit to show that there's so much more than just trying to figure out being bands and musicians on Broadway. There's shows, there's entertainment, there's choreography, there's so much more than just like learning how to be in the band, but how to be you on stage, which is very cool. And that's what I wanted to show. And I also, going back to the Writers Round stuff, that's what's very different, doing Writers Rounds and playing, shows on Broadway like that. And even the shows that I perform now, that are my shows that I do back up in Cincinnati in both. Whereas Writers Rounds, you go on stage with other songwriters, and I believe that's where either if you want to be an artist musician or a songwriter musician in town, you're either going on Broadway, playing on those shows, you're an artist, or if you're a songwriter musician, you're on you're just in Nashville going around doing all the songwriters rounds, and you're playing with songwriters during 1 hour, and we all go back and forth playing songs that we've written. So it's so different because Broadway's cover songs, and then songwriter rounds, you're playing yourself.
So 2 questions out of that.
Yeah.
Number 1, what was your favorite song to play on Broadway, and what was your least favorite song to play on Broadway?
That's a really good question. Man, I Feel Like a Woman was my least favorite.
Really? You talked it all up.
I did, because I played it every day, and that was one of the ones that I created choreography to as well. If you know, I'm going to shout out Natalie Aaron. Okay. She's amazing. She's a wonderful choreographer here in Nashville. She helped me perform and put all of those dance moves with all of my Broadway stuff. So shout out to you, girl. But that one probably is my least favorite. I'm not going to lie.
It wasn't the birthday song?
The birthday song?
Oh my gosh, I hope you get some tonight. Oh, yes. Every time I go to a bar and it's someone's birthday, I know they do it for tips, so no disrespect to you guys that are doing it on Broadway. But man, that song gets so played out in my mind. I thought it was going to be that song.
Yeah, but whenever I did it, I always said cake and ice cream.
At the very end.
Right.
Yes.
Cake and ice cream. That's what you need.
And then what's your favorite song?
My favorite. See, I love that. And you know what? Every time I would walk around with the tip bucket and people didn't really have a song that they wanted to hear, but they wanted to tip me and play a song, they would be like, play your favorite song. So I would always pick My Church by Maren Morris. Now,
how sad is it to be playing on Broadway, not playing your own original music?
It is sad. It's, I really think that needs to change. I think there's a lot of people down there playing so many cover songs back and forth every single day. You can go to any bar and hear any of those songs, but there's not one bar down there that showcases original music with live bands, which I also really tried to kind of change that. I would play my original music a lot. I did have a song go viral in 2021, which is when I was playing on Broadway pretty frequently. And when that happened, I had lots of people, they saw my stuff on social media. They would come up to me at Tootsies and they would request the song, it was called Breakup SZN, if you guys have heard of that. And that was probably the coolest part about me working down there, because I did have that amazing opportunity and so many fans, I can say now, that would come to see me play that song at Tootsies. So
it's such a business, because we think about Broadway and we're going to transition it more to your songwriting stuff today, but we think about Broadway because most of the Broadway bars downtown are named after musicians. Mm-hmm. So you would assume that a musician who, they don't necessarily own the bar, but the musician who's it's named under, you would think would want you as a musician to play your own music.
Right.
But there are musicians that are really good at singing covers, and then there's musicians that know how to sing their own songs.
Right.
So there can be a little bit of a mix there.
Exactly.
But it's ironic, though, that I go to Lainey Wilson's and I'll hear a million Lainey Wilson songs, but I will never hear the original of the person who sang that song. But that was just me being an old man, so you guys can hear that. But let's talk about transitioning that to writers' rounds and performing your own music. As we started before the break, right after the break, I said how much I appreciated your live performance. You do such a great job of moving your hands and kind of getting the crowd involved in just your own personal music. Where did that trait come from? The cruise ship?
Thank you. Well, not exactly. It kind of goes back to the amusement park performing, singing and dancing. That's really where I got all of my choreography skills and I guess stage presence too. I also grew up doing musical theater, so I would be on stage kind of acting as somebody else and putting on a show, or if I wasn't like a lead character, I would also get casted as a dancer or part of the ensemble and, do something in the background. So that kind of correlated to everything that I wanted to be as an artist. Even when people ask me from my hometown, why didn't I keep up with going to musical theater? Why didn't I go to Broadway on New York? I always say I wanted to be myself on stage.
Being a performer and being able to not only sing, but also do a great job of bringing the audience involved. I mean, have you ever had any stumbles along the way?
What do you mean by stumbles?
Well, before we started, hopefully I don't jinx this, but you have a hiccup. Do you ever hiccup on stage?
I do. Well, okay, yes, I do. So I have chronic hiccups. It might come about once in a while, but normally when I'm singing, it doesn't happen in the middle when I'm singing. I guess it's because my body is doing something else, you know? But if I'm just chilling and you're talking, it'll come about. Or if I'm on stage and like waiting for the next song or something, I'll hiccup, you know, once in a while. But I really haven't had too many stumbles besides probably when I did have my heart episodes, and that would happen. I'd kind of pass out a little bit here and there, but other than that, and working on the cruise ship because it was a little wobbly, you know, I would fall on the stage there a lot.
Would you ever work on a cruise ship again?
That's such a good question. I absolutely loved it, and I loved being able to tour the world on a ship and being on sea. And I was on the Mexican Riviera, so I got to go through all of that, and on Cabo, and we went to Puerto Vallarta, and we went through the Panama Canal. It was such a really awesome experience, and being able to perform every single day on a cruise ship for people just, you know, having a good vacation, so fun. But I would say no, because living on a cruise ship is a very different story.
It's more like, so have you been to a cruise ship before? Okay, cool. So cruise ships are super much like college. It is pretty notorious for having a lot of too much fun on a cruise ship. People go to cruise ships not only with their family because it's more affordable, but the drink package is there.
Oh my gosh.
And there's a lot of single people that go on cruise ship. There's people that not only like to be not single, and the cruise ship just has a whole different being within itself.
Uh-huh.
So being a person that was working on a cruise ship, how did you stay away from the craziness that was on a cruise ship?
I didn't.
Oh, you didn't?
It's all around you. And, you know, I did kind of stay away from it. I more of was a people watcher, and kind of watching all of that happen, and them, you know, it happened to me. It would come to me. I saw all the craziness. But I wouldn't say it wasn't really any of the passengers. It was the employees.
What?
That were the ones that you should watch out for.
Really?
Yes.
Well, we don't got to go
Keep
too
it
much
on the down low.
We don't need to talk about it too much, but I'm just surprised by that because, you know, with there being so many people on this cruise ship, always coming every time. Mm-hmm. We had another guest on the show saying that you had to give it 100% every single time, mm-hmm. because it's a new audience every single time.
Every single time. And because I was a performer on the cruise ship, I basically had to be on stage everywhere I went, unless I was in my own little cabin, which was a hidden area in the bottom of the ship. So if I wanted to go out and do something, I'd have to, you know, wear my name tag, and I was an employee. Yeah. So I'd have to be walking around as if I was still like my performing self on stage, which is fine. But like, it's so easy for me to do, but, you have to be careful because when you meet passengers and you want to have a good time with them and party, you can't do as much as them, you know?
Wait a second. So you're telling me that employees on a cruise ship are not allowed to partake in anything because they're just at work?
Correct.
Really?
Yes.
Wow. So that makes sense why that you don't see too many of you guys out there. But mm-hmm. It's always like, if you ever go to a cruise ship and you see the performers, they're always attractive. Doesn't matter if you're a guy or a girl. They're always good looking people. And I always wonder where the heck they are when you're in the cruise ship. They're never around.
No, because we're hiding.
And so there's tunnels within the cruise ship.
There is. Uh-huh.
Ah, well, yeah, I like that. Now,
it's kind of like Disney World, but on a cruise.
Well, speaking of the waves of the ocean, talk about the waves in the music industry and how it's always constantly changing.
I think when I first moved in town, it was 2015. So I've been here for 9 years. And just
one more year.
One more year.
They
say it's...
So they say.
A 10-year town. But yeah, I moved here right when I turned 18, and it's been kind of cool watching Nashville grow into what it is today. But because I did that, I think I mostly was, you know, studying the ins and outs of what I need to do and where I need to be and who I need to connect with. And that's the biggest thing that you need to do and learn about whenever you come to Nashville is the connections and networking and knowing who your people are. And so I think the past 8 years, that's all I was doing. And so I felt like I kind of lost myself at the end of when I left Broadway. That's when I truly realized, like, okay, I need to really focus on myself and understand who I am, or I don't think I can be the artist that I truly know I can be. And so that's what I've been doing this past year. And that's kind of how my whole Heart Condition EP came about. I've gotten together with so many creative songwriters in this town just by all of the networking that I have done already. And I've been able to kind of slow down and really write more and get in tune with my own heart and how I want to live. And it's been such a blessing, and I'm so excited for everything that's about to come.
Well, so before we take our last break here, I'm curious to know this. So you've been here almost for a decade. Who's been some of the coolest people you bumped into in and out of stages?
Wow. Okay. I'll say this. I used to play with Megan Maroney in Writers Rounds all the time.
Yeah, that's right. She popped off really quickly.
Isn't
that scary how Nashville does that? Nashville will have a person like Megan Maroney, you name the person, they started here. And how fast if they have that studio behind them.
It's so cool. What
was that like? So, yeah, what's it? So you said Megan Maroney. Give me a couple more.
Megan Maroney. It's been cool watching even Priscilla Block. She started off... A song of her went on viral on TikTok. She's been in this town doing it for so long too. And now she's signed, Megan's signed. Gosh, I don't know. There's just so many people that I've watched like Megan and have been inspired. And I feel like, if I keep it up and just keep writing from my heart, because they did that. That's all that she ever wrote. And I'm always like, well, I can get there too,
Does it feel like when you were right there with them, right? Or what they say classes here in Nashville, now when they have that backing from a studio or from a label, does it seem like they're very far out to reach now?
Kind of, but only because since they do have a team that they can work with and they don't have to do everything themselves, it's definitely a lot harder to reach out to them because they're not in charge of that anymore. Whereas like before that, it was just all of them. Like Megan did all of her own stuff for the longest time, and now she has a whole label that helps her tour and be able to put out her music and get number ones on radio. So it's really great. But when that opportunity does come to you, that is when you need to slow down and really focus on yourself and understand that you're in this position to be able to put out what you've been wanting to do for everybody in the world because you have that platform to do it now.
If that opportunity came to you, where first of all, I'm just wondering this, do you prefer being independent and putting out all the things yourself? Because you do a really good job, but it's definitely a second job. But if you're given the opportunity, would you take that opportunity to go through the major label route?
I absolutely love that. I would say I love being an independent artist. I love having my own creative ability to do whatever I want, and being my own boss has given me a lot of freedom. But I do come from a background where I didn't grow up with money. My parents, all they wanted to ever do, their dream was to have kids. And I have an older sister, and they wanted to have another baby to have for my sister. And so ever since we were born, they were like, you need to do what you want to do. Like, go dream, go do whatever your heart desires, because you guys were that for us. And so I take that for everything. I absolutely love that, and I stick by that, and it really led me to be who I am right now and why I want to do. So if there ever comes a time where I'm able to get the opportunity to be in front of any labels that could help me in that sense, because I don't come from a background. I say that because they spend a lot of money to have us.
Triplets,
they
man.
Can't retire ever. And so yeah, now I kind of just work by myself, and I have, I clean houses as a side job. I walk dogs as a side job, but music is my priority, and I make music off of that, but I'm trying my hardest to kind of make that my full-time job. And if there's a label who sees that in me and wants to help me with that and not really steal or take anything else from me, then I would absolutely love to be a part of something like that.
Well, speaking of, not taking away from anybody, we do have a section on this show called Crowd Noise, where fans of you has submitted questions for you to answer. I got 2 voice questions for you to hear.
Let's go.
So we'll be right back with Gracie right after this.
Whose fashion are you currently inspired by?
Whose fashion are you currently inspired by?
Fashion?
Fashion.
Oh, wow. Okay. Does it need to be like a person or a brand?
You know what? Because you have your own clothing line. So I'm curious to know, first of all, what's the name of your clothing brand?
Oh my gosh. Okay. That's amazing. So I work with Apricot Lane Boutique. Up at their boutique is up in Illinois. I work with Normal, but there's a whole bunch of boutiques with Apricot Lane all throughout the country, so you can see them. But the company that I've been doing my collection with, which is pretty cool, is with them up in Illinois. So like, that's a great question, because I was going to say it would be that boutique. That's where I kind of get all my clothes, like these clothes that you see I'm wearing today, like these jeans.
Show the boots. You got to show the boots.
The boots, the jeans. I have a jacket that I brought today. I took off because it's a little hot, but I have a whole thing. I have a whole line. It's pretty cool. My name is in all of them. And it's fun because I get to go to like the Nashville fashion boutiques, or they're called Magic fashion shows. There's some in Vegas, there's some here, they're all over the country. And so I'll go to them and kind of pick out what clothings and piece lines that I want to add to my collection. And I work with Apricot Lane Boutique, and we put all of that in the store, and we have up like, it's the Gracie Carol line. So I would totally say that it would be my clothing line.
Well, then, from who's inspired you growing up with their fashion? It could be in music, it could be in movies. Who would be your couple favorites?
Oh, it's so hard to say, just because I love, I love any kind of fashion. I really do. I try to piece together what's good, but I would honestly say Lainey Wilson's fashion. Whoever styles her is amazing. I love what she wears. I love her hats. Her bell-bottom jeans are absolutely incredible. And I always try to say I'm kind of like a Y2K 70s country girl.
I can totally see Y2K.
Thank you.
Now, actually, speaking of Y2K, more on the 2000s side, forgive me if this is a compliment, is Disney Channel.
Okay, I do take that as a compliment.
Okay, good.
Thank
Take
you
that
so
as a compliment.
much.
So, were you watching Disney Channel back in the day?
Disney Channel was my channel.
What was the show?
Oh my gosh, Hannah Montana.
Yeah?
Hannah Montana. And I also think that's why I love Lainey Wilson, because she was a Hannah Montana impersonator.
Was
Did
she
you
really?
know that? Yes.
No, I didn't know that.
Yes, Hannah Montana was my girl. Miley Cyrus too, like all of it.
What do you think about
awesome.
Miley Cyrus now being related to Dolly Parton?
Amazing, because she was her godmother. She is her godmother, even in the show. So, I mean, it works out so perfectly that they're actually related.
When I listen to your music, though, I think because your songs hit that kind of popish, but also country vibe, like the songwriting is very country inspired for sure, but your vocal range goes very pop.
Wow,
Have you had anyone
you.
say that to you before?
Yeah. So that's why I always say I'm country pop. I mean, I grew up in Cincinnati, kind of influenced by a lot of pop and different genres. But the real reason why I do country is because I grew up listening to it. I just absolutely loved it. Like, the first instrument I ever heard and fell in love with was a banjo at the Grand Ole Opry. And so after that, I was like, oh my God, country music is amazing. I want to write just like that. So that's kind of how I learned how to write songs, was because of country music and the old time stuff. Like Alan Jackson is one of my favorite all time musician writers. And I did take a lot of influence from him and Taylor Swift. And I think that's where a lot of my country aspects come. But me as a person, you can definitely hear a ton of pop influence, and I think that's where like the kid in me with Disney Channel and Hannah Montana, even Demi Lovato, I loved her too. I think that's where the pop side comes from. So I think it's a really cool mixture that I kind of add both things, and it makes me who I am.
What CD would you always play to death? You would play it all the time. Oh,
it was Taylor Swift. I actually listened to her nonstop. I don't think there was a lot of poppy people I listened to at that time. It was mostly country.
What's your era?
With Taylor?
Yeah.
Fearless is my favorite.
Really?
Yeah.
You're a lot of reputation in the show. Why Fearless?
No. So the very first song I heard of Taylor's was Teardrops on My Guitar. And I thought, honestly, I think that's one of the most beautiful songs that's ever written. I think it's so great lyrically. I think it's, so beautiful. And then after I heard that, I went and bought that debut album and I listened to it all. And not shortly after, she released Fearless, the album. And after, I kid you not, I played that album. Probably the most that I've ever listened to anything in my whole life.
Yeah, she's absolutely great. And, I just think about back in the day when you said CDs. How cool it would have been to live in Nashville when there wasn't streaming and it was just people pushing their CDs. Think about how different that would have been.
I love that era. I wish it was still happening.
Wait, so you remember that era here in Nashville when they were pushing CDs?
Yeah. Oh,
both y'all do?
Oh my gosh. Yeah. No, I would be down here. I was probably like 11, 12, 13, visiting Nashville. And that's when I was like, okay, what do I need to do to be able to get into the music industry? And I was that person. I would go on Music Row. I made CDs. I was in high school. We had like a little studio in my high school. And I would go to like Big Machine and I'd knock on their door and I'd be like, is Scott Porchetta here? Here's my delivery. And they'd be like, well, make sure we'll get it to him. Obviously, it didn't get to him. But full circle moment on that too. I actually interned there while I was in college.
Well, first of all, Belmont takes you all over the place. Belmont, they really do want you to be out there in the scene. And I think it's so cool that like music and CD, it's sad to say that my 4 years being here in Nashville, not one person has come up to me with a CD.
Wow.
And I get it, right? Because we're, that's old technology. A lot of people don't have CDs anymore, but it's like wild to me that now when you walk on Broadway, you'll just see QR codes on the bottom of the floor.
On the ground, yeah.
And it's just, speaking of wishing people do that, we got one more question here and then I got to leave you with my last two questions.
All right,
here we go.
A chance to host your own show, what would be the topics and who would be your first guest?
Okay, so I actually did have my own podcast in 2020.
That's cool.
When I was super bored and I got back from the cruise ship and didn't know what to do and everything was shut down, I created a podcast called Girl Most Likely. And I got a bunch of people. I did this with Trevor Perkins, if you know him. But I got a bunch of people, and we both did, from all over Nashville, who were business-owned female empowerment women. And it would be people from girls just trying to start their own boutique, and they just had their house as their boutique and selling clothes like online, and they had made a closet of the boutique. Or, songwriter, musicians, females who just moved here. And I would get everybody on the show. And if they were a musician, we'd have them play a song, or we'd also create playlists for everybody to listen to them. And
now, speaking of that, and that show, I got my last three questions here. And one of them has to do with vital signs.
Yes.
Your song, Vital Signs, I was listening to it at the gym today.
Oh,
as crazy as that sounds,
that's
listening
to
Vital Signs at the gym.
That one was really fun. So I wrote that with Charles Walker, Marie Wise Hawkins, and Maddie Marks. And it's so cool because I went into the write that day, and that was kind of when I was already figuring out that, okay, yeah, we're going to write this medical EP. I don't know what it's going to be called. I don't know what we're going to do, but I want to do that. And Charles was actually the one who I was kind of texting him about that beforehand, and he came up with that idea called Vital Signs. I mean, the hook, I mean, everything about it. I'm fighting for survival. I need to check my vital signs. He came up with that. And so once he said that, I was like, okay, that's the song. We're going with it. Don't change anything. And so from that, we wrote all the rest of the song, and Charles was the one who actually did the guitar part on it too. And we just kind of went back and forth on how we think it should go. And then it was just so cool kind of putting that together and realizing like, oh my gosh, like this could be my next single. And I ended up putting that out next.
I mean, it's honestly a beautiful song, and you guys got to definitely check it out. I love the production behind it. I love even hearing the little hey in the background of it.
Oh my gosh, thanks.
But also it takes a person that really listens. So really listen to it when you get on it, because there's so many little things. And then the last thing is Symptoms of You that you just released. Mm-hmm. How are you enjoying? How's that one streaming next to the other ones?
That one's a funny story because we wrote that song, I think the same day we wrote Breakup SZN. So it was kind of like bookends for me, where we did Breakup SZN and then I quit Broadway. And then I was like, okay, I'm kind of feeling this. So it was like a full circle song where I came back around to it and was like, I don't put out songs, by the way, that don't resonate what I'm going through at the time. So if I go back to a song that I've written and I feel like it's speaking to me now, I'm putting it out. So that's what that song did. And I put that out in November. So it was around a year ago now. That it's been doing so good. It's been one of my favorite songs. It's one of my favorite productions, and I love it. It's definitely kicked off the heart condition EP type of feel. So.
Well, speaking of that, my last question on the show, and everyone knows that I asked this question, so I want to get your opinion too. So, as a musician, as a person that had a health condition, that is constantly thinking about ways of how to make their life better. Have you ever had imposter syndrome? And when you have imposter syndrome, what can you tell the person that's watching this right now to not, what are the tricks to not let that get to them?
Wow, that's such a great question. And not a lot of people even talk about those kind of things. And so many people go through it. I think especially this past year after leaving Broadway, I think I became a person that I truly didn't want to be. I think I was going down a path that wasn't really meant for me, but I like to be a light in this world. And no matter who I meet, I want to make sure that people know their path too. And so I kind of put myself in that zone where it was taking me down as well. And so this is why this past year has been so amazing, and why this EP means a lot to me, because I was facing imposter syndrome this whole year. I saw people viewing me as somebody that I wasn't, and I was believing them. And so I hid myself away. And I think this is what everybody needs to do, is you just need to take time for yourself, even if it's sitting in your room, feeling the feels that you need to feel and doing things that you like, taking yourself out on dates. Even if you are in a relationship, you need to love yourself for who you are. You're not able to show up for other people because you're not showing up for yourself. And that, I think, definitely will help the imposter syndrome if you're facing that.
Well, I love that. That's such a great way to put it all together. And last question I got is 2024. We are filming this at the end of 2024. This will be out right before Thanksgiving and all those things. So I'm looking forward to the food that we'll be potentially eating. So shout out to future Tony. But now, and shout out to Mom, she's going to make me some food. Now, what are you looking forward to the rest of 2024 and top of 2025, Gracie?
Let's go. Honestly, I'm looking forward to hanging out with my family. I feel like because of what I have been through and like what we've been talking about, imposter syndrome, I have neglected kind of who I am and who I was with my family, and they have seen that. And I think I've kind of healed a lot and fixed myself to be able to be in their presence again and be me. So I'm looking forward to just hanging out with all of them and counting my blessings with them.
Well, I love it. So the way we tee off your Walk the Line, which is going to be your performance of Vital Signs, which I'm super excited for. You look straight into that camera right there. You say your name and you say, "This is how I walk the line." Just like the Johnny Cash song, Walk the Line. Okay.
Do I say like, "This is how I, Gracie Carol"?
No, you say your name first. So, hey, I'm Gracie Carol, and this is how I walk the line.
Got you.
Are you ready to do it?
Yeah.
All right. So after the applause here, 2, 3.
Hey, this is Gracie Carol, and this is how I walk the line.
Hey, Gracie!
Since you showed me your true colors, everything's been black and blue. All the pressure I've been under, it's no wonder I got bruised. Baby, how could you be so reckless? You took it all and you left me breathless, like you did on the day that we met. I haven't been breathing since you've been gone, and this heart is barely beating, no pulse at all. Oh baby, since you cut my chest wide open, it's like a part of me was stolen, so I'm fighting for survival. I need to check my vital signs, vital signs. Never thought that I'd need saving, never thought it would last this long. No use in a lifeline wasted, I think I might be too far gone. Baby, we used to burn it out till you went and put the fire out. I'm all out of oxygen now. I haven't been breathing since you've been gone, and this heart is barely beating, no pulse at all. Oh baby, since you cut my chest wide open, it's like a part of me was stolen, so I'm fighting for survival. I need to check my vital signs, vital signs, yeah. Ooh, and this heart is barely beating. Baby, we used to burn it down till you went and put the fire out. I'm all out of oxygen now. I haven't been breathing since you've been gone, and this heart is barely beating, no pulse at all. Oh baby, since you cut my chest wide open, it's like a part of me was stolen, so I'm fighting for survival. I need to check my vital signs, vital signs. Well baby, I need to check my vital